And we are live. Yo, Easy, how's it going, man? Glad to have you on the Now Media stream.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Likewise, man. Well, it's quite a week to be talking. I mean, we are like green candle after green candle. Like, what's going on? Where's your head at with it?
I mean, everyone's been trying to ask like what the catalyst is, right? That's been like the big thing. Like, what is the catalyst that's causing this price action? And truthfully, I don't think it's any single catalyst. I think the crypto summit was very interesting to have that kind of push that we had where Hyperliquid was mentioned. And I was like, damn, that's wicked interesting. Like, that's very interesting, right? Yeah. And I was like, okay, so obviously Hyperliquid's probably coming into the market in some capacity in the US. As far as what degree is still up in the air, because we've never really had perps in the US. Kalshi's the first product that allows it. And that's been kind of a game changer. But it's still smaller leverage there. But then on top of it, this narrative that I think a lot of people are kind of like not really crediting the run to is the RWA stuff, right? Like, I look at the real world assets on Base, Robinhood, BNB, Solana, and I'm like, okay, there is something here. Like, there's very much so something here. I think I posted a tweet earlier today. I tweet way too much, so even trying to find like my own stuff, I'm like, where did this go? The thing I saw today that was fascinating was they believe that the RWA sector is only going to continue to scale, and it's tripled in value since 2025. So, like, tokenizations of RWAs are nuts. And that's just last year.
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild. I mean, I know that that's been part of the narrative on Robinhood. And, you know, we've been seeing a lot of activity there. I know we saw a bit of a pullback, but I feel like that's going to be that Robinhood chain is definitely going to be a really interesting part of the cycle as well.
I agree. I'm a massive like equity holder for Robinhood. I'm like a huge believer in the company. I think $400 a share is very attainable. I've been holding it since sub 40. So I'm like, just a big fan. I like went heavy on it when I saw like the Trump accounts, and I had the thesis of like Gen Z banks and where you end up being a banker. The likelihood of you leaving your bank is so slim because like you just get comfortable with it. And that to me was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense for younger generations. Like they control that. They dominate that.
Did you expect like the kind of resurgence in NFTs that we're seeing on Robinhood, or was that kind of a surprise to you?
That was a surprise. But I mean, in general, what was really, really interesting about it was we saw this move of the NFT side with FWA first almost, right? Like that kind of picked up a ton of traction. And FWA was a very novel primitive that I think did incredibly, incredibly well.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on FWA? It's been interesting to watch that. It's had quite the trajectory with like the rise, then the crash, and then sort of the pivot and the clarification and the shift on the fees and the buybacks. And now it feels like it's like trying to break out again. And they just announced FWA, you know, or Inotics, like turning into a launch pad. So curious your take.
I like it a lot. I think it's just a new way to launch stuff, right? Like Stonk Brokers has their own swing of the similar with like the Stonk Launchpad, but then FWA kind of gamified it even more. And I think Rhinotic did an incredible job to come out and take this like what isn't new tech because it's a gotcha machine, but put a unique spin on it that's extremely crypto native. And in order to get exposure to the token for this thing that people were so confident would have buybacks, you had to spin. You just had to rip and spin and rip and spin. So I'm like, that's crazy to see. And I was like, this was a very smart play by them to take that approach. And then at the same time, it's not like a new concept.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the gotcha machine is like, you know, pretty proven right now with all of the craze around TCGs and everything that's going on. Do you feel like it can be sustainable, or is this, you know, or it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to be sustainable in these markets just with like, you know, the attention economy, but like curious, like where your head's at with it.
I think like I had a thesis on it and I'm long FWA. Like I have a pretty decent spot bag on it because my whole thought was they're going to get quality NFTs in there and it won't be like spam because it's somewhat gated. I had a thesis that it'd be Bold Leonidas. He came out and said it wouldn't. Now I'm like, okay, that's fine. Now we can just go down the path of like other one-of-one artists on the ETH side of things. Like, what if there is some of these bigger names that go in there and people are now chasing for that art? Because now your upside potential is exorbitant. And I mean, even in general, you have these 111 NFTs that are going in that are PFPs for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, that's really interesting. right? Because people are going to want those and they're good. They're like one of ones. So I'm like, this is fun. Like, this is really fun. Like, I saw a Thread Guy one that I loved. I saw a G Money one that was fun. A couple of these other ones that I'm like, oh, these are awesome. Like, they really tapped into the ETH culture on this. And inherently, people are going to want to chase. And if you get one, the person who it's of is going to want it. So it creates this like demand loop that I think is really interesting. And because so many people are going to be chasing because they know that there's an upside potential here, the reality is that just leads to more volume, which leads to more buybacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like we are primed to see a greater NFT comeback this cycle, or do you think people are kind of getting a little ahead of themselves with the excitement?
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, just largely because I look at it like what's crazy is Panini, the trading card company. Yeah. Their blockchain is actually doing an unreal amount of volume because it's simply from the TCG wave that's happening. And the thing is, people like collectibles. That's so clear. With the TCG market going as parabolic as it has, then it's kind of like very interesting for me because I want to believe that digital collectibles will have their place, but I don't know if it's going to be the same way that we really saw with the NFT side, right? Like 10,000 PFPs minted for access to some speculative return, right? And that was largely what it was. People got so excited that we were chasing NFTs to make money. And that was basically the extent of it.
Totally. Are you a big collectible guy? I mean, I see the jerseys in the background, you know, like tell me a little bit about your background and, you know, if that world, you know, like if you come from that world as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, collecting has always been like kind of the thing I've been obsessed with. Like it started with sneakers in middle school. I loved Jordans. I loved the Nikes. I was selling and flipping sneakers to make money. At one point I sold 60 pairs for a car, and that was how I got one of my first vehicles. Wow. Which was a lot of fun. And then I started flipping cars. I ended up buying an Acura Integra.
Nice.
So like it was cool as a kid, but I was yeah, right. So it was just like a cool thing to do. And then I ended up flipping cars and ended up like I found the vehicle I still to this day love, which was a 2004 Infiniti G20. I still have this fond moment in my heart of just how much I loved it. But I got like even that part, I like look back and I'm like, dude, I was 17, 18 years old, had a 92 Alfa Romeo in pristine condition that I just like flipped up towards and then ended up selling. I drove everything from like VWs to it wasn't like any crazy brands, right? Like a Mercedes, I guess BMW, but I wasn't like in a Ferrari or anything. But I had this like base hit mentality where it was like I could go buy a car for $1,600 and sell it for $25, right? So I was doing that, but like back to the collecting side, I did it with sneakers forever. Like was trading constantly, was camping out because this was before sneaker bots and online releases. Everything was in store. So I'd camp out, get a pair of shoes, show up to school late, right? And then sell it after school for like a $70, $80 profit and be euphoric. And then you just kind of scale up. And then I remember I really got into cards, like trading cards really, really heavily in 2019, 2020, chasing Zion Williamson rookie cards. So that was the big play because you could get an ungraded Zion Williams rookie card from basically any pack. Like you could walk into a Target and pull that card. And it was the base card would sell for $80 to $100 on eBay. And the hit rate was pretty high because they were printing these like crazy. And what's funny is that's what got me into NFTs because a buddy hit me up who was doing some PR for the NBA for Top Shot. So he's like, I think you'd like this. Like you're chasing these Zion cards. We were talking all the time. Like, I think you'd really enjoy this experience. So I was using Top Shot before there was a queue. So I was like really early where I could leave for like a day, come back and buy another pack. And I still have like player debut Steph moments. I still have a player debut LeBron moment, which was like the first ever ones. And obviously they diluted it to hell. And I watched my portfolio go from like $500 to 30K back to zero. And I was like, NFTs are dumb. I like had a distaste towards NFTs. And then Bored Apes were minting, but so were hash masks. And we still had some ETH in a wallet, me and a friend. And he's like, he sent me the apes. And I was like, nah, let's mint a hash mask instead. So we minted a hash mask.
Obviously many such cases. I remember that time. It was like
so I minted a hash mask and again was like, dude, this is dumb. We minted the wrong thing. Screw this. But I kept tabs on it. I was like still interested. I was like, there's something here with this digital collecting and trading thing. I'm gonna just keep an eye on it. And then August came around and Lazy Lions minted. And me and him minted a ton of them. We were like depositing to Coinbase, trying to get instant withdrawal to send to a wallet to mint more Lazy Lions over and over and over and over. And because back then it wasn't like these crazy runs, right? But it was just the fact that we liked the website and they looked like Bored Apes and Bored Apes were a few ETH at the time. So we're like, oh, maybe these go, right? And so that was kind of like the whole journey. It started with sneakers, then got into cars, then trading cards. And now like, I still, obviously you can see I collect a bunch of stuff. Like I'm a huge Bulbasaur fan. And I have a whole case on that wall of PSA 10, first edition, every language, tons of different variants people have never seen. Because I like the obscure stuff. But I did well on Trump Coin. And was like, what would make childhood me happy? And it was like just buying these things that I never thought I'd own. So I have like a reverse hollow signed by the artist who created Bulbasaur in that case. And I'm like, this is just a really cool thing to own. And I just have zero intention to ever sell it.
It's like a nod to Young Easy.
Yeah.
You know?
That's literally what it was. It was just like, and then I like as a kid grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh. That was like the card game of choice growing up for my age. And like I remember going to Toys R Us and playing it and like competing. And so I ended up buying a full Exodia set, PSA 10. I have like 5 or 6 different iterations of Blue Eyes White Dragons that are all graded. Because again, it was like a nod to my younger self. Like I played the ever living crap out of that game and was like, it would be really cool to just have these cards.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So long answer, but yeah, I've always loved collecting.
I love the origin story. You know, it's always interesting to hear. And like, what's interesting is like, so were NFTs your first time really getting into crypto, or had you dabbled in crypto before? Okay.
I had been trading in 2016 to 2018 with crypto, so I was like very, very familiar. So like I remember pink sheets. I remember like sending money to a random wallet, hoping for the allocation that you just did the pre-sale for. I remember the BNB shitcoin days. I remember Pancake Swap. I remember like all of that. And that was like before I got into Top Shot. I remember like trading all of that and running. I want to say it was like I've talked about it before, but I think it was like 15K to 600K, and then I got zeroed out like shortly after Christmas.
Yeah.
So like that was really tough. Like I'm talking completely zeroed out. Like I just kept adding. So like my bank account had like $20 in it at the time. Like I went straight from euphoria to zero in like a 48-hour window. So I've been on like both sides of that extreme. But like I've been familiar with crypto basically since its inception, because in college too, we were so interested in like the whole idea of the Silk Road, me and my friends, that we ended up using one of like the alternative sites because Silk Road had been shut down. And we bought like an eighth of weed in Bitcoin just to see if they'd ship it. They shipped it, and to this day, we still look at the transaction and we're like, dude, this is the most expensive drug we could have ever bought.
I feel
like that's now like we spent like 20 grand on this thing. Like what the hell? We should have just kept the Bitcoin.
Yeah, as a 2013 guy myself, I look back at some of the decisions I made that cycle, and also 16, 17. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Just hold Bitcoin, you know? But we're trying to stack, so easy. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to stack more of it, you know. But I'm curious, man. Like, obviously, like you were flipping from an early age. You were collecting, like you were trading different things. Like you clearly have this like the kind of that grinding mindset and an eye for that. How do you feel like those experiences early kind of like helped you become a better trader today, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is like lessons, like just the cycles of like holding and hoping that it would go higher and not cutting and taking profit. I mean, I've been trading equities for a very long time. Like I started trading equities at 16, became fascinated with the concept of trading, and I've always historically done well trading with equities because like I'm like a way more long-term trader with stocks than I am with crypto. Yeah. Like I'm a very aggressive crypto trader. And we saw last cycle, people always make fun of me for like paper handling stuff. And I've never really cared because like it's more money in my pocket. Yeah. Right.
It's also the move these days with like the rotation, you know, economy. Yeah.
And even last cycle or last run, like I did really well on things like Believe Coin, if you remember that.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I had a full thesis of it at 6 mil and like shared it to Bodago's whales and people who were interested, and ended up running to like 300 plus. And that was like a great trade. But it was like, that reminded me more to just be like more when I have conviction, stop chasing and hyper rotating, because there's like smaller stuff, but like now I'm like largely allocated on memes to like this thing called net, which is like 20 mil, FWA I'm in. And those are like two of my larger exposures. Cause I'm like, I think these have like significantly better upside potential without as much downside risk. I like rekt coin a lot. Shout out them for with rekt traders today. Totally. But yeah, I think in general, it's helped me a lot because I basically go and trade low caps and like micro cap meme coins, knowing I'm going to lose money, but just scratch the itch of trading. Like I definitely do much better with perps and prop accounts and those types of things where like it's more trading spots on a chart and having set stop losses and take profit and just letting it work versus needing to constantly make a swing or hit the next 10x just to survive.
Totally. I mean, I feel like, at least from the outside looking in, like it feels like you're across everything. Like I know, like you're in the trenches. Like I know you went deep in prediction markets. We were chatting about all that. Your vibe coding, getting in on AI stuff. Like, tell me a bit about like where your focus is right now. And I know you started to speak to it, but also kind of like where you're allocated right now as well.
Right now, I mean, I still like prediction markets a lot. I still think that they're hands down the best source of truth when it comes to tangible events, because like it's, again, money speaks. And money speaks significantly louder than most other things. Like if the media is pressing that we're going to get interest rate hikes and all this stuff, I can just go look. And like I'd have a better gauge between the 20-year, 30-year, and 10-year interest rates in a prediction market than the news is going to tell me. So I'm way more interested in that. But as far as how I'm allocated right now, I'm still not fully allocated to crypto. Like I still have a decent cash position intentionally. And like I don't mind if I miss the bottom. Like I'm fine. I'm completely fine with that. I still hold a large Solana position that I bought sub $20, and I just staked it. And people know, like I put it on a ledger, tucked the ledger in a safety deposit box out of state because I knew I would have sold it. There would have been so many times I would have paper handed it. And I have targets like closer to 400 where I'm like, if it never gets there, it never gets there, because we've now made enough where like that 8% interest is great and it's done really well. And I'm still up on it, so I don't really mind just holding it. I would have round tripped the whole thing, truthfully. I've been totally fine with it, just because it gave me the semblance of like, okay, I know that I have this safety net if everything went terribly, terribly wrong. But I think a lot of that too has also helped me like realize how to trade some of this market and things I want to be allocated towards. I'm allocated on Near, which I'm a very big believer in from like an altcoin style play because of their AI participation. I'm fairly allocated to Hype, which a lot of people have seen me even post about, like where I was like getting allocated in like the 40s. So I'm very happy about that trade. Still holding a decent position, but I've been scaling out slowly. And then I have a good cash position because I still think we test cycle lows, which people are like, dude, you're just a doomer. And I'm like, maybe. But at the same time, I've been here long enough that like when everyone's this euphoric, it does feel good to have a move like this, and it could definitely go higher. But I have set levels I'm watching. Like if we can get a couple closes over 85K on Bitcoin, I'm like, okay, now I can still get exposure. And I'm fine missing that 33% move to now be comfortable with much less downside potential, knowing we're back in. And I think that's part of trading is like, I said it on my stream this morning. I'm always a big believer in the thesis that you can be late to the party. You just don't want to be the last one to leave. Is like how I look at the market. Like I don't have to be ticking the bottom. I just don't want to be the last one holding the bag.
Totally. And especially if like you're handling spot positions and things like that where you can afford to wait. I think like where it gets interesting, and I mean we've seen the rise here. Of perp trading, and people, I know that it's kind of at an all-time high in terms of popularity right now. So we're seeing like OpenSea, Kalshi, all of these different platforms start to integrate it. That's where it gets really interesting, because like if you think we're back when we're not, and it retraces, or we have another like a flush out, that's the last thing you want is to zero your portfolio before the bull run
right before the run.
Yeah.
Like what are we doing here? Right? Like that's not what I want to do at all. So I'm comfortable waiting. I'm totally comfortable waiting. And people might think that that's crazy, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, is it though? Is it really that crazy?
What's interesting is that I had conversations with a lot of people that I consider really smart traders, kind of last year, everyone from like OSF, Seed Phrase, like guys who have like really made a lot of money in the markets. And there's this sentiment that both of them express, and not just them, like a lot of people, that like we're kind of out of the 4-year cycle. But then like in October, we still saw 1010, we still saw that crash, and like things have honestly kind of mirrored the 4-year cycle
since to the 4-year cycle, where now it's like if October does mark the bottom, the 4-year cycle is 1000% intact. 1000%. If the bottom happens in October, I don't think you have an argument for the next 8 years that there's no 4-year cycle, right?
Right. So like, are you kind of operating with that in mind as well, or?
I'm like beyond looking at the 4-year cycle. I say that and it sounds smug, but the reason I say that is because like I'm more interested in other macro catalysts, because I still think Bitcoin is, with all the inflows from ETFs and all this other capital expenditure on it, it trades significantly more aligned with TradFi than people want to admit.
It's true.
So I look more towards like things like midterms, which actually lines up with the 4-year cycle, which is like, of course it does. And that's kind of why you have these dictations of election cycles. And you want the economy to be in a good place going into midterms for the incumbents to have a chance. And if they don't, obviously the counterparty will typically win from who's sitting in office right now. And that's kind of what I've been more closely watching, because if you can get a bottom in October and a hard rally, it sets up where people feel more relieved on the economy through midterms, a better chance that Republicans can split because it looks like House is going to go blue and Senate's going to go red. Barely, though. Like you could have a Democratic sweep, which would see a catalyst in the markets. You typically see a sell-off because you have a sitting red president and now blue House and Senate, which regardless of how you stand or are aligned, it does have cause and effect on finance. And that's generally like, I don't care what political party you're a part of at all. The only thing I care about is what the price and what the charts are doing. And it kind of lines up for me where I look at maybe not so much a 4-year cycle, but what are the catalysts? Like I closely watch oil. I closely watch the 30-year. And those are like kind of the big things. I watch the dollar index every day. Those are like the bigger factors where I'm like, I watch the Fed watch for what the potential rate hike or rate cut odds are. Because all those things play into the market. It's like that's way more of an important indicator to me than a 4-year cycle. But that also plays into my short-term trading habits.
Understood. So I saw your tweet about like thinking that we might still revisit, retest the lows. Like what motivates that, or like where are you seeing that? Like what catalysts do you feel are going to contribute to that?
Yeah, I think the big catalyst that plays into that is more the situation in Iran is still ongoing. The MOU is paused. So theoretically, attacks could start at any time, which would cause a sell-off in equities. And markets hate uncertainty. And Kevin Warsh has now largely set the tone for consistent uncertainty in the market. The reason I think part of this is we don't have an FOMC in August. So there is a lack of uncertainty without what the Fed is going to be speaking on until September. I think we're going to see volatility going into that. But because Kevin Warsh is not releasing dot plots himself, or even really forecasting where he thinks the market and inflation is going to go, it leaves the market in a vulnerable place. And that to me is a bigger concern because historically every Fed chair has always given some semblance of what they believe is going to happen. And he doesn't. He's been very vocal about not doing that and even changing how we do some of these and even lowering the amount of Fed meetings we have. So uncertainty in the market is usually a bearish indicator. But the benefit is like we're still right now are seeing inflation kind of chop. And now we've gone from 3 rate cuts this year to potentially 3 rate hikes to now nothing, staying completely flat this year. And then potentially tabling for a cut next year, which I think would set up for, once again, 4-year cycle, positive moves. But if there's any sort of move or feeling that inflation is not cooling even remotely, then we could see that sell off. And I'm not saying like retest the complete Pico lows, the 58K area, but like 65 to 60K. If we retested that, I think the timeline would be in shambles. I think people would be absolutely devastated to see a negative price action happen like that. And I'm like, I'd rather account for it than pretend that it won't ever happen.
Totally. I'm curious to get your take on social trading because obviously it's the buzz right now. I know that you have a partnership with FOMO, and it's really becoming clear, at least from my perspective, that it's driving the trenches in a way that's quite different from last cycle. Like last cycle, you kind of had to know where to look. Like you could go on KOL scan, you could go follow like these different like wallets and such. But like now for retail or for your casual trader, it's easier than ever to follow someone's trades in real time.
It's funny because Polymarket has always been transparent about what you hold and who holds it. So it's like you see this and you're like, okay, interesting. One sec. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh, good.
The thing that I think about that with social trading, the biggest part is like what I look at is more just like how it happens, right? Like I think it's a very interesting indicator for a lot of it is the fact that you can see people's thesis and what they think about and how they navigate it, right? Like that's where I think is more interesting than just blindly copy trading. Because I've been very anti-copy trade for so long. And I think in general, copy trading just leads you astray because you don't know what their thesis is. You don't know what their catalyst is. You don't know when they're going to buy more or sell. You don't know what their stops are. But understanding why they've entered a trade is the most interesting part of what FOMO is doing. Because I can now read the thoughts and understand like, oh, okay, this is why they're interested in it. This is why they bought it. This is what they think is going to happen. And I interviewed Cordy the other day when he was up $1 million the first time on Niulet. And I was like, how do you exit this trade? And he was like, there's 2 options. Either you get a Binance Alpha listing or CZ interacts with the tweet. And sure enough, both of those things happened within 72 hours of one another. And Binance Alpha listing happened almost immediately after the stream ended. So I was like, that's wicked interesting. And he ended up scaling out like 400K on his 40K buy, so 10X, and left a moon bag, and he's now up again $1 million. So I'm like, I was very interesting to hear his thoughts on how he was trading it. And I think that's the better part of social trading is like we have this ability now to get into the minds of how these people are navigating the market. And it should just be used as a resource and not a direct have to copy, need to do thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How has social trading changed how you trade? Like I know you're active on FOMO and
yeah, it's more like I'm still trying to get a bearing for this, the way that this rotationary market's been, and trying to just find and pick spots. Like I would prefer to start, you could see a smaller bankroll just to get, like get my feet wet again, where if the market is going to get as crazy as I think it will, I don't mind getting more comfortable now with some of these moves. And like part of it too is as a trader, you're going to have people upset with you on both sides. Happy that they tailed you into a trade, mad that they tailed you into a trade, happy that you sold, mad that you sold. And you have to remember at the end of the day, it's like your P&L as long as you're not like dumping on the followers. That's the biggest thing. It's like don't go out and bull post something as you're selling it, which shout out the Arthur Hayes special when it comes to some of the things he's done. So that's more of how I look at social trading is like for me personally, I want to use it as a resource to help share and help people see why I might be doing something more than anything else. It's a tool that can help you get better. It's not a tool to help you make money, in my opinion, guaranteed to make money. Like copy trading, sure, it can work, but it's the least effective form of trading, in my opinion.
Yeah. What have been some of your most successful recent trades? And like what was kind of the thesis there, or what did it validate?
I mean, even now, most recently, FWA, I was very happy with how I traded that recently. Trying to see what else, because I mean, I've been getting wrecked on FOMO.
Yeah.
What else did I buy even recently that I'm like, I really liked? Yeah, I think FWA was probably the main one, and then NetNet is this new one that's like an ohm fork. But it's like I'm familiar with ohm forks and how to trade them and never stake because of my history from DeFi summer.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that's kind of it. But then I was like slightly interested in some of the stuff with like Pons and the art of like Robinhood chain, and I realized buying some of those before all the trading platforms got listed because like you have friction. And then when like 3 or 4 trading platforms had Robinhood chain listed, I exited most of that because I was like, I'm not terribly interested in now having like this very easy thing to trade for a lot of people, right? Like I want it to be difficult. Delta was another good one. It was like the Meteora for Robinhood chain. So like these tech plays where I know that there's some value add and some opportunity where like, okay, this product can inherently do well. VVV was another one. I know Ansem and Banks have been talking a ton about VVV.
Yeah.
But like their user base is not crypto native. So they don't care if crypto users are in it. Like, and they just buy back the token. I missed this pump trade, which I'm pissed about. That one kind of haunts me because I'm like all the data pointed to it going up.
Yeah, I lucked out because like I was starting out with perps. I was just kind of like getting my feet wet on Hyperliquid, and then I had kind of a feeling, and I opened up like a 10x long, and then literally Ansem tweeted that like thesis like an hour later, and it's been up only since. But it's interesting, like now it's a very different way of trading, and that's been a good success for me. But I've also been getting wrecked on FOMO recently, so I'm like there's two sides to the coin.
Yeah, that's the biggest part is you're going to get wrecked too. Yeah. Like that's the reality is like you're going to get wrecked trading perps, trading memes in some capacity. I always just call it tuition. It's all part of tuition.
Yeah, yeah. For speaking of getting wrecked, like what have been some like real recent like bad trades, and what did you think you've kind of learned from them about the current market?
Oh, I've just been over trading.
Yeah.
Like I know I've been over trading. I want to click buttons. That's been the worst part is like I really just want to trade the trade. And I'm seeing a bunch of people make a ton of money on FOMO. And I'm like, damn, I want to just go make a bunch of money on FOMO. So I like swing, but I don't ever have a thesis for it. I'm like, I'm not actually trading this with any narrative or seeing like positive price action. And I'm tailing stuff I shouldn't be. And I'm not really even having an exit strategy. That's the hard part. Like, if you don't have an exit strategy at all, whether it's a stop loss or a take profit, you're kind of not doing what you should be doing, right? And I'm still largely trading a lot on equities. Like I'm a big Microsoft believer recently with 3 Mile Island and nuclear power for data centers. I think that's a really interesting trade. Robinhood obviously been bag holding it. I trade ES and NQ, so SPY and NASDAQ basically daily, which I just enjoy doing more than anything else. But yeah, I would say like the things I've kind of like fumbled with was largely memes because I've just been terribly over trading, and I know I've been over trading, and I don't need to do that. And then it's also just like trying to be patient with some of the majors. And
Right.
I want a FOMO bad, dude. Like, I know I want a FOMO. I'm seeing these price actions and I want to buy these things and just chase. And even yesterday, like I bought Sol on the first breakout yesterday for the move higher and hit a great trade on it. But then like I tried to short yesterday and got stopped out and then just sat on my hands because like I'm over trading again. So I think the majority of my bad trades have just been over trading and wanting to be in a trade when I don't need to.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, and understandable when we're in this kind of really exciting climate where there's just a lot happening, and it feels like there's opportunity abounding.
Yeah, I think so too.
But what's interesting is like being overwhelmed by opportunity. It's like there's a lot happening, and that could be a blessing and a curse. And it's interesting hearing you talk about how like you're trading equities, you're still doing prediction markets, like you're in the trenches, all of these things. You got your positions. But you're also keeping up with like oil and geopolitics and all of this. Like, I'm curious, man, like what does an average day for Easy look like? Like when you wake up, like what are the first things you check? Like how do you have a system to it? Or is it kind of like where the news cycle and the timeline take you? Or how do you kind of stay disciplined with it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, dude, right now, honestly, it's like I wake up, I live on a farm. So the first thing I have to do is like take care of animals, which is like, I don't look at anything. I don't even look at prices. I do my absolute best to not let that dictate the start of my day, despite wanting to bad. So like I do that, get into the office around 8 a.m. Like I'm normally up around 6:30, 7 at the latest. Get into the office around 8, sit down, and then immediately start opening up the charts.
Right.
That's the thing. I'm like, okay, what is the macro landscape right now? What's going down? How does it look? What's happening? Like, how is this shaping up in real time? I check the dollar. I check ES, S&P and NASDAQ first for futures to see how it's going to open that day. I'll look at crypto immediately after. I check the dollar index. I check oil. And then I go to FedWatch and see if there's been any shift. And then largely it's seeing if what news or macro data is releasing at 8:30 a.m. Right? And then I get into the stream at 9. We trade market open at 9:30. And then the rest of the day is largely just grinding on a million different things. Like we've just been heads down on so much stuff recently, so it feels good to be busy. But dude, I have 48-inch monitor, a monitor up here, a vertical monitor here. So I have charts open all day. Like even while we're talking, I'm in a Sol short right now that I've just had the chart open. And I'm like, do I add more to it? Do I let the stop wait? So charts are open all day, just constantly checking stuff. I have X always open just because that's part of the job at this point, especially for like breaking news. And you're in media, it's like if something happens, you want to be one of the first to respond to it, react to it, share thoughts on it because it'll have the highest impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how being in this space has shaped my perception of breaking news, because it always used to be, I mean, coming from media, billboard spin, all that stuff, like I was always like, gotta be on it from in terms of like coverage and also, like having a voice on it. But now there's like, also thinking about like the meme coin implications of breaking news, right? It's like, I mean, I'm not really a guy who is deep like in the meme scope or like trading new pairs or like things like that. But I'll, if I see that there's something big taking over the timeline, like, I'll try and place a bet sometimes here or there. I'm curious, like, how do you think about like the financialization of, what's happening?
Yeah, I would say the implication, it's kind of funny because like you could leave like a meme scope or a FOMO open all day and be contextually aware of the news faster than X will break it.
It's true.
Which is crazy because like meme coins are almost a new news source. Like I remember when Luigi Mangione was happening, the guy from the United Healthcare situation.
Yeah.
I found out about it through a meme coin and then immediately went down the rabbit hole of the story. And like, it's so nuts to see that that's a factor. Or if Elon posts a tweet, there's a higher chance you see the meme coin about whatever the tweet is before you see Elon's tweet. So it's been very interesting because truthfully, I love meme coins. Like I love everything about them. And I know that the majority of people kind of get beat up on them. And that's like the hardest part of it, but it is a reality. But I also think that they're one of the best sources of information, one of the fastest ways to trade, and one of the best ways to, one, lose money, but also get your feet wet and understand the most volatile and PvP side of the market that could possibly exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious to hear, man, like what's your content approach these days? Because I know like you've got the daily stream, 9 a.m. Eastern time, right?
Yep.
You're posting on YouTube. I see you're getting more active on Instagram. I know you updated your handle recently or in recent months to Not So Easy Money. And I know that that's kind of like the brand you've been working with on YouTube. Just curious to hear like how are you thinking about your content strategy and what have you been seeing with it?
Yeah, I mean, the Instagram is like a new swing. I've never really tried Instagram or really ever used it. Like my thought, even when I got into crypto, was I basically got rid of every other social media intentionally because I was like, I'm spending so much time on Twitter that I don't want to doom scroll another app because at least if I'm doom scrolling Twitter, I feel productive in a sense because at least it's like I'm growing this brand and really hyper focused on it. The name change and that switch was like very intentional because finance and crypto was slowing down. TradFi was kind of running. And I was more interested in like high level general topics, right? And I knew that like Easy Eats Bodega, which has been the core brand forever, would be less of a memorable name than Not So Easy Money on something that's like trading focused and something finance related because it just ties into a wider breadth of that. And that was more interesting to me. So I went that route, did the name change, realized that like if the cycle is returning, I want to start getting more reps in because I want to be at the forefront as like a voice of reason and like an authority figure when it comes to this space. And that was really my big push. And it started with like seeing a couple of these videos from like TradFi start to get a couple legs. Like I had a thesis on the Mexico nearshoring trade, did like 5,000 or 6,000 views. I'm like, okay, so people do enjoy TradFi content. And then, of course, I post a full meme coin trading guide for the FOMO app, and now it's my like third most viewed video. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're never leaving crypto. So that was kind of the fun part. But I'm also like, the most interesting part for me on the content side is understanding where to meet your audience on what platform. Like I understand Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are a much newer audience than X. I can go on X and post a sentence that would make the average human being be like, what in the hell are you talking about? But then I can slow it down and go back to this educative tone and get into these other socials and post content where people are like, I'm interested in this. Like, especially on Instagram, I just got DMCA'd today, finally, for the GTA video I posted because I had gameplay footage in it. It happened on X, so I was waiting for it to happen on Instagram, and it did. So I was like, okay, finally. Like, thank God. Because that video did like 170,000 impressions because I was one of the few pages that had not been DMCA'd for it.
Wow.
But,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, but like my content approach is more just like, what's trending? Would this be relevant to like an audience somewhere? And what audience and where would that be relevant? Short-term content about like memes, probably pretty trending on like Instagram. Like my Jimothy video did very well. The new Lay videos are doing very well. And I'm like, okay, so hit the trending topic as quickly as I possibly can. Like be the first one out, hashtag it with that topic, and the algo will probably pick it up if it is a trending meme across socials, not just crypto Twitter. For YouTube, it's way more how-tos, thoughts, best practices, all that stuff. And then, of course, looking at something like a X is like either first to the market with some feedback on a topic or share a trade thesis. And that's what the audience loves. So it's just been fun experimenting because like I've gone every which way. Like I've been on X for 5 years now. As of this month, I want to say like my anniversary on X was like a few days ago, if not a week ago. And I was like, damn, it's really been 5 years. But I've just learned so much, like 147,000 followers from literally zero. It's been just a crazy journey. And now I'm just curious if I can run it back on these other social channels and find what works. YouTube's been hands down the hardest because I've gone on and off posting and I finally broke 10K and I was like, okay, now what?
YouTube's hard. It's a grind, but it's also like it could be so rewarding if like you can really build it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm curious too. I noticed you started like sponsor easy.app. It looks like it's like a live sponsor board for brands that can actually like claim ad placements. It's a cool concept. I'd love to hear a bit about like what inspired that and you know, why you decided to launch that and what you've seen from the market.
It was actually funny. I like called Nick because me and Nick talk way too much. Like the lady makes comments about it. I was FaceTiming with Nick at like 10 p.m. last night, just talking business stuff. And she's like, are you really FaceTiming him right now? I'm like, yeah. Like, because we're always talking. There's always something. So me and him were talking, I want to say a month and a half ago, right when he started streaming again. And I was like, dude, because I like to think I have decent networks with like people in the space. So going and talking with people about how to get sponsorships and like seeing interested brands and alignment has been more or less straightforward to be like, hey, I like your product. I use your product on stream anyway. I'd love to see if there's more alignment. It's worked out. And I've gotten some great brand opportunities. Shout out FOMO, Yeet, Wayfinder. And now we're starting to do some stuff with Cambria, which I'm really excited about because I love their game from the Blast days. And now obviously TG coming up, which I'm wicked excited about for them. But then Nick really was like wanting to do more on AI and education and broader market talks and wasn't sure how to monetize. So I gave him this idea. I was like, it was funny because Jack Butcher actually did the exact idea I gave to Nick, where I was like, launch a ticker tape where anybody can buy spots on the ticker tape for dirt cheap, like dirt cheap. And then I saw Jack Butcher release words where anybody could buy a letter and spell out words. Right. And I was like, genius. Damn, he beat us to it. And then Nick was just taking forever to do it. So I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to go do it. And launched this board where it was wicked cheap to start because I had saw Ben Greenwald's $1 million toilet. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I wonder if there's a way to do this for streams because there's dead air at the start of streams. If I leave the desk, there's dead air. At the end of the stream, there's a few minutes for an outro. And I was like, I wonder if you can monetize that in a traditional billboard sense. And that was the route we took with it. And sure enough, it ran really hard the first few days, had like an incremental price increase. And now brands just hit us up and are like, hey, we want to just figure out what makes sense. And it's a very simple quote sell, right? Like, because to me, it's, hey, you get this brand placement, branded logo. I talked about it on stream briefly. Very simple deliverable, and brands really resonate with it. So it's kind of turned into its own product, which now me and Nick both run. And we have a couple other creators in the ecosystem trying it, which has just been a lot of fun to like experiment and see if there is a demand. And clearly there has been. So we've just kind of gone that route, which has opened up a lot of opportunity for us and just trying stuff, which has been a lot of fun.
That's cool. I love that. No, when I saw it, I was like, that's super smart. And I'm curious to hear, right now, I feel as though like one of the common things we'll see on crypto Twitter, and it's a lot of people are saying it because it's true, is like content is your superpower. It's like you got like leaning into content is like probably a no-brainer for people who like really want to like build followings and also just be successful in the space, right? And so I'm curious, like obviously you've had some great partnerships, and you've been in the content game for a long time, and you've seen things change. Like, what advice would you have for people who are getting started now and are thinking about making content, but also like crucially monetizing content?
I think the first and foremost is just hit record. Like the hardest part with content is starting and staying consistent. Like I've shown up, I've tweeted one day at a time every morning for the last 5 years without a hiccup, right? Just because it's been part of like this thing that I remind myself of, like, what happened yesterday doesn't matter. What's going to happen tomorrow doesn't matter. It's about taking it like one swing at a time, one at bat, one attempt, one try. And that's been largely what I enjoy doing. So like with content, it's the same breath. It's, you don't know what video is going to pop. You don't know if people are even going to care about it, but you don't know if they're going to care about it unless you try. And the thing is, so many people just are so hesitant to try because it might be cringe. It might be weird for you. But at the end of the day, dude, so many people have so much else going on in their own life that even if they find that video cringe in that moment, they're not going to remember it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. And you're only going to get better. I look at some of my old videos, like first ever videos. I'm like, damn, dude, that was terrible. Like, this is rough. So that's been a really fun experiment to like go and look back. And I'm like, ugh, like what was I doing? And then now I'm like, oh, this is like night and day. People have commented on the fact that it's like, oh, you're a natural. I'm like, it sounds that way, but it's that way because it's been 5 years in the making, right? Yeah. And I've tried everything from like really unpolished, unedited videos. Like I have a DeFi guide for how to use Meteora that to this day still pulls 40 views a day. And I filmed that in one sitting the day before Pengu launched because I was like, this would help people. And that was part of my content strategy, has always just been like, I enjoy the education content. I enjoy the informative content way more than anything else because it's as simple as like, what would I be looking for if I was starting today? And if that was the case, that's the route I want to take, is what can I do to share value to a viewer that makes it be like, oh, this was actually really helpful, so I want to subscribe. Because when I watch content, I'm like, oh, this was really informative, I want to subscribe. Or I watch some true crime thing, that's some story that's like, oh, I'm not going to sleep at night, right? So it's the content journey's been very interesting. And feedback for someone who wants to start today is, 1, just press record. 2 would be, don't box yourself into a niche. Be comfortable trying a bunch of different things that you're interested in, because people can hear the passion in your voice and how much you actually care about it, or if you're just doing it to do it, right? And that's a big difference. Like, I love trading. Genuinely am obsessed with it. And so that's what I like to make my content on, because it doesn't feel like I'm making content. It just feels like I'm, like when I stream, I'd be trading that market anyway. So I figured, why not just go live?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then like the monetization side, it's like obviously like, and I know, you know, coming up like with the Bodagos guys, like you guys built like a content business there, but it's like, you know, in terms of people who are trying to like monetize their content, it's like, you know, do you recommend it like they go out and try and source partnerships? Is it more about just making the content really good and like if you build it, they will come? Or like, how do you think about that from like giving advice?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Truthfully, a little bit of both. Like the first part is go and make the content that you enjoy. And then the second side of it is don't one, sell yourself too short, but two, it's I also understand you got to put food on the table, right? So like, but when you're starting, find brands you align with more than just any brand. Because if you take bad partnerships early that you don't see anybody else on the timeline posting about, you're probably selling yourself out in some capacity. And you have to understand, like, it's been 5 years and I tweet a lot. So like when I have like work with brands and they want more exposure on tweets and stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is fine because one, I tweet a lot, and two, people are going to see it regardless. But like for someone starting, if your goal is to make money off content, then make content about making money, right? Like that's kind of the handoff, because then you'll end up growing pretty quickly if you are able to make money, or make content about things that are valuable to the audience, actions that they can take, things that they can learn that will help them level up and get better. Because the biggest thing here is, regardless if you're doing something for a partnership or trying to make money from a brand, you can either find a brand you really align with and hyper focus on making content around that brand, which in turn, usually you'll end up getting some opportunity from said brand because you're making great content. Or in that same breath, try to make content that you just enjoy that people can gain value from. I always go back to like the 3 E's: education, entertainment, or equity. And what I mean by equity is like increasing their bankroll. And that's largely the main 3 things. Like the best part about our business is we kind of have all 3 of those, right? Clemente is very entertaining, very entertaining. Pio dominates with him on the entertainment side. Nick and I are way more on the education and equity growth side, where Nick is hyper-focused on entrepreneurship, using AI as a tool to help grow and scale. And I'm way more on like the equity side of trading and the education around trading. So it kind of helps that we all have our own niches and our own verticals because we can bounce ideas off each other. And if you're creating content, find other people who are creating content, interact with them, start talking with them, get familiar, and try to help work alongside them in any capacity, because the space is still small enough that everybody can eat. And I think that that's going to continue to be the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you currently using AI in like your day to day, especially around like your content workflow? Because like it's totally changed
AI
mine,
24/7. Like 24/7. I literally have Codex open right now, and I have a Claude window open as well. But we use it for a ton of internal systems. I've built a ton of products for internal stuff to help make our workflows easier. And the nice part about AI is like if you're using an app every day, you can largely remake that app, save yourself the monthly subscription, and now you have complete control over tailoring it to do what you need to do. I write a meme coin recap every day. That's now largely automated, where I can just press a command, it runs, syncs, tells me everything. And then for the stream, I work with this guy who helps me, like kind of a producer in the back end before every stream, which helps. But he uses AI for that. And then I also have a morning brief that sends me everything that's going on. So I use AI 24/7. Like something's always running, always happening.
What's your current setup in terms of like what are you using for what? Because it's interesting. The AI moves so fast. It's like, you know, I had everything set up with OpenClaw, then I went like deep in Claude. Now I'm like moving things over to Codex. It's like I'm all over the place. But it's like, you know, for a lot of people, it can be tough to like keep up with. I'm curious, like where have you found like the leverage points for each platform?
So I mean, I use Codex and Claude for code, like plain and simple. I just use both. Sometimes one gives me a headache and I'll move it to the other one, but I tap it directly into a GitHub instance. I have a software development background, which certainly helps with a lot of this stuff. So it's given me like what I like to think is like an unfair advantage, because I come from product and software itself, which has been a huge value add. But then also, I still to this day use OpenClaw, which a lot of people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like I've just built the systems in OpenClaw that like it's never given me an issue. I'd rather just continue to use it until I have problems. People keep telling me to go over to Grokbot, and I've heard good things. So I'll probably end up trying it.
Yeah.
But I'm always experimenting with stuff. There was a long period of time where I was messing with AI video and like just getting familiar with it and trying it. But yeah, the big thing for me has always been like what and how I can use it to help make myself more efficient. And largely with content, it's a big help because it can source stories and other things.
It's crazy. It's insane the kind of the amount of leverage it can give you.
Yeah, and that's the best part. Like the content side, it just helps me source ideas of like what could potentially show that people care about. There's been a few days where I'm like, I don't even know what to tweet today. Like mentally just not there. And I'll just bother AI for stories and then be like, oh, this one's interesting. I actually think this is interesting. And can schedule out 4 or 5 tweets for the day and not have to think about it. So like I'm still posting constantly as much as I usually do about these stories and topics I'm interested in and kind of just let it go. And that's been a very nice trend.
Yeah. You've been on X, formerly Twitter, for a long time. Obviously, a lot has changed, over the years and even in recent months, with Nikita departing and also like some of the recent changes to the algorithm. Like, what are you seeing? Like, what's working right now? What are you finding is working and what's not working?
I mean, truthfully, bull posting always works. People love a good bull post, which like I've been more of a contrarian person on that, which has been fun. I'm like, I don't like this. This one's not for me. And even now, but it's like just have an opinion and stand on it. And one of the big things I think people undervalue is like if people are engaging in conversation in the replies, reply back, talk with them, speak with them, get involved, because that's been a big part of it. Like a big part of it that I think a lot of people sleep on and don't like actually want to get familiar with, because the conversation is what gets rewarded on X. I think the other side of it too is like mess with the new features that come out, like the reply with video or react video thing. Is a lot of fun. And if you haven't messed with it, it's just like the algo will always promote the new thing. When articles were hot, everyone was writing articles. When the react with video, it's kind of subsided, but there's still a boost on those. So it's like, why not just go and try it? But I think it's also just like post about the things you're interested in and find other people that are creating similar content on those topics. Fill your timeline with it, because then your content's going to get shown to those same audiences where they interact. And I think it's part of a game. Like social media is a game.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I know we're coming up on the hour mark, but what's like, what are you excited about right now? Like what's coming up? Is there anything you're working on that we should be aware of or keep on the radar? Or like what's where's your head at?
Good question. I think on my radar, I'm very interested in what the rekt traders mint is going to do, because it sounds like this gamified experience of trading on the Robinhood chain. So I'm like very interested in that. I think outside of that, though, for me, I actually think we pull back on the market. So I'm like kind of a doomer. People hate me for it, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't love this price action. We're kind of at resistance. People are like, shut up, idiot. I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit here and wait. But I think I'm very interested in FWAIR. I want to see what other NFTs get in there. Like if you could get some awesome artists in there, I would not shock me to see a Jack Butcher collection in there. It would not shock me to see even with some other one-of-ones in there that I think people chase for, that could have some cool price action and mechanics to it. Stockbrokers ecosystem, I'm fascinated in and have been constantly just keeping tabs on it.
Do you feel like that has legs? Or
I think it does. I think they absolutely do. The stockbroker launchpad kind of caused this sell-off because it was like the catalyst a lot of people were hoping for. It didn't really live up to expectations, which is fair, but like you can never always live up to expectations, right? Like that's just part of it. It's always like buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. But I still think that their ecosystem is awesome, and Simple Farmers is so insanely smart. And then obviously shameless shill, but like I'm still interested in like in-person events, like AVAC Summit coming up in New York, which I'm wicked excited about. Obviously Vo, who is my partner and significant other, is like a big part of that. But I've been seeing the list with people in the room, and I'm like, this will be good, like very good, especially in New York, like in the Mecca. I'm like, this is awesome. So excited for that, excited for Token, excited for KBW. I might not make it out this year, but I'm even just interested because so many people hold announcements for that. And you usually get great feed on like what's happening and where people are kind of structuring what it is they're going after. I think a lot of it will be RWAs. So I think stocks on chain, 23/5 trading by CME Group, a lot of that.
Oh yeah. Anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
To be honest, no. I think we kind of hit everything. You had some great questions. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, man. No, I really enjoyed it as well. Always good to see you. I know we always have great conversations, and so I figured like we should put one on the record and
100%.
Let people learn. So.
Want to see you in New York for the summit?
I should be around. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll catch you there. But let's definitely catch up and do it proper.
Long overdue, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you for the time.
All right, brother. I'm gonna hit end, and it was a great time. It was great chatting. We'll have you on again sometime soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.